It's March 16th, 2013, and I'm here with Vancouver artist Charlene Vickers, and just talking about some of her new paintings. Get a feel for them.
Okay, well, my name's Charlene, and I've been living in Vancouver for the past 20 years. So I started out mostly doing painting. I went to Emily Carr, and I took the painting program there. And since that time, I've been doing like numbers of different things, sculptures, and exploring video and performance. But since last fall, I've totally just gone right back into doing painting again. And it seems to be more of an exploration of process and of the action of painting itself, and also thinking about different ideas and having your work come from process instead of like the other way around of like having this particular concept and then going ahead and creating the work from there. It's more about the doing and the excitement of creating and painting that is important to me right now. And also I had this really great revelation of feeling joy when you're doing something, right? We were talking about finding a way out, or like not feeling cornered by something, and a way that I feel that is important to my work is to have that feeling of joy when you're creating. So that's something I really am beginning to recognize in the work that I've made over the past month. Like these particular works from the past fall are more, a little bit more washed out looking, but still interesting. There's like a lot of layers, and it's on paper.
Spread it.
And I think something that was really interesting when I was making these works on paper is the life and the nature of the paper as a material, because when you're using acrylic or water on the paper, it will actually it will start to rumple and change in the way as it dries. And then as you're applying more layers, the nature of the mark changes as well. So it's like letting yourself go and accepting the fact that you don't necessarily have a full sense of control of the materials themselves. They have a life of their own. Mm-hmm. And it makes me also think about this really great quote by this artist that I really love, Faye Heavyshield. And she says, I'm not the boss of my materials are the boss of me. Mm-hmm. Right? And so I think that's really an interesting...
maybe is perhaps a hazard that too far in that direction becomes fatalistic. I mean, I suffer that anxiety sometimes. If I have too many machines, I start to be burdened by this notion that it's no longer me. It's more like a show and tell. What had been this sort of expression of self is deferred into this technological object, mere acquisition. But maybe that hasn't been.
Oh well, another part of the process, which thinking about what you just said, how I actually made these works, is not in a conventional sort of fashion with like a paintbrush in your paint. What I did was like I would paint objects and then I would like press them down onto the surface of the paper. Mm-hmm. So there's sort of a mediating sort of object in between the paper in what I'm creating and my own body. So that's also something that's really interesting, I think, too, because I see each mark as being an indication of my own body and the gravity and weight of my own body, and also indicative of my own existence.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's something that's really interesting, I think, about these particular paintings. But then, as I was saying earlier, I've changed my medium, and it's like oil on canvas now. So it's actually changed the way they look a lot, because there's some of the main ideas are still there in terms of having like an indication of the brush and the mark of the brush, but the lines are like more exact, but the color.
It seems like you're intending for symmetry to sort of dominate the painting, and then you got a little, bit of chaos in the white part there.
Like there's imperfection that's embraced. Yeah.
But it's still partial.
Hi.
Like Francis Bacon, when he puts just a white splosh on little things now and again, just to kind of maybe make it imperfect.
Yeah.
But you're limiting yourself to these vertical lines, vertical colors.
Yeah. So I'm still trying to not call them stripes, because I find myself describing what I'm doing to people, what I'm doing in my studio for people to hear about my painting, and I just like, as soon as I say, oh, there's stripes, I think, that's such a bad way to describe them.
Maybe strata. They're stratas. Something in that Deleuze book I lent you talks a lot about that substrata and strata, and how every strata has two sides. And to think of the skin as not being just the outward surface, but the inward surface also. And that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, because I was thinking that with these particular the pieces on paper, that I saw it almost like a skin as well. And then I was thinking about the vertical lines and how people could relate to them being vertical. If you think about like your spine, like you were talking about your spine, and people could relate to them as in a bodily way, right? And then I was sort of also like using the word like chords or ribs even, right? Right. So thinking
or like test patterns on TV. Does that?
Well, it does. There is that sort of idea about. It does look. If they were like more consistent, I think maybe then you could see them as
they're much
test patterns.
Some kind of analytical, psychological things about different behaviors that are sort of evoked by different combinations of colors, such as things like a blue room is relaxing and a red room promotes aggression, yada yada. Are you conscious of trying to develop those kinds of things? Like I want a painting that has a sort of a combination of an aggressiveness with a kind of a pacifying quality?
I think that with these pieces, they sort of echo color schemes from the 70s. But then there's also like a lot of contrast and vibration happening in them as well. That is like discordant, right? part.
I mean, that vibration comes from a selection of colors, maybe, or does it? Like you have different ways of connoting that vibration by saying you'll have a yellow stripe relative to like almost like a what do they call optical illusion. Try to create a
yeah, because I was watching, like really looking at them one day, and just with when they're on like a white wall, or you're like looking at them for there is a sort of strange optical illusion happening, and they do tend to like come in and out a lot, right? And I don't know if that has to do with your own breathing, or if that's something everyone would see, but there is sort of like a movement that happens with the contrasting.
I think there's probably a lot of analytical stuff about that. Maybe Gestalt explores those kinds of associations between emotions and colors, color combinations. Cool.
Yeah, so
do you have a title for this series? Maybe it's not necessary.
Well, I did, but I think it's a little bit over the top. And
what is it?
Like,
just for kicks.
Well, like I was actually thinking it would. I was going to call them just my existence.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think other people have come up to the similar sort of titles, or like when they're making work before, but for me it's not necessarily about it's more significant because I see what I do is not only like expressive of being like an artist or a painter. I'm like I'm an Anishinaabe artist, right? So I see that as being significant, right? I'm for like personal narratives, and it's a particular place to speak from. I don't know if you would say it was political or it is in some ways, but I think if you think about just the idea of being happy and having joy when I make these, or these are the motions that make me happy, right? And recognizing that, right? Instead of just saying, I've got work to do. I've got to go and do my work. I've got my art practice to attend to today. Yeah, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna do.
Immediacy.
Yeah.
Sort of, I would think of immediacy. Great. Well, it's up to 15, almost 15 minutes.
Well, that's long enough.